Coming up, I get my legs dirty.
A lot of fun. No one's thrown mud at me yet.
Thousands of birds get spooked.
Can you imagine that?
And it's fun and frolics for this lot.
Very exciting to see them out here.
The coast of Australia is as diverse as it is long. Apart from glaciers meeting the sea, pretty much every example of coastline you can imagine features along its length, from sheer-faced cliffs to pristine white beaches and everything in between.
And where this great land down under meets the sea, we have some of the most remarkable flora and fauna in the world. A lot of it unique to our shores. This is Roebuck Bay in northwestern Australia, and I'm here to see some of the fantastic sights this corner of the continent has to offer.
This body of water is massive. It covers 550 square kilometres. That's 8 times larger than Sydney Harbour. And it's extremely varied in its makeup. Red cliffs on a northern shore give the beaches their distinctive colour. There are estuaries that offer sanctuary to a host of animals. And over on the eastern edge, there's mangrove-lined creeks, excellent nurseries for fish and crustaceans.
But it's down there that makes this place so special to me.
These mudflats support one of the highest densities of invertebrates anywhere in the world. It's estimated up to 500 species can be found below the surface.
And for shorebirds, that means one thing: plenty of food.
I'm on my way to meet local rangers at the Broome Bird Observatory who regularly conduct mud surveys to check on the health of the bay. It might not sound glamorous, but it's essential to monitor invertebrate numbers.
Roebuck Bay is renowned worldwide for its shorebirds, but its success depends on so many factors, both here and overseas.
We need to know that the bay is producing enough food to support the many wading shorebirds that arrive here from breeding grounds thousands of kilometres to the north.
G'day, I'm Tim.
G'day, Tim. Luke.
Luke and Jason are Yaru, the traditional owners around here. They work with Bonnie on these surveys for the Western Australian Parks and Wildlife Department.
I do, mate.
Where are we headed?
Just down onto the mudflats, mate.
Beautiful. Can I carry something?
Yep, you can grab that and I'll grab these two.
Righto, after you. What are we actually doing today, Luke?
So today, Tim, what we're going to do is we're going to walk out onto the mud about 100, 150 metres, get some samples, some mud samples. And what that does is it gives us an idea of the biodiversity within the mud.
Which is all the little living things in there.
Yeah, all the little macroinvertebrates within the mud that the birds, that the migratory shorebirds feed on here.
Yep. And so I know the shorebirds well, and they've all got different length bills, so I guess that in that mud, there's going to be different layers and different organisms?
Yeah, definitely. If you look at the core here, you see we've got a notch marked out there, and that indicates the length of the longest bill of the shorebird here.
Yeah, what's that?
That's about 20, 25 centimetres, and that's probably the bill of the eastern curlew.
Eastern curlew?
Yeah.
Yep.
And whatever's in that will give us an idea of what the birds are feeding on and how the bay is.
And what's the feeling at the minute, that the bay's pretty healthy? Is everyone happy with it?
Yeah, I think it's pretty healthy. We're still getting a good influx of birds coming in and feeding off the mudflats. So, yeah, it still looks pretty good.
You've got a good influx. You've got one of the best assortments of waders in the world.
Yeah, that's it. I think over 300,000 birds fly in annually.
And they've got a lot of pressure throughout the world, so it's nice they come here and there's management and they're safe.
Grabbing samples has to be done at low tide. Once the water's gone out, there's a massive area to collect from.
So that's the spot. What do we do now?
We'll collect some samples.
Yep.
So each sample consists of 6 cores. So 6 of these cores will make 1 sample.
Okay. So and this is the dirty bit?
Yep, this is it.
And then we head back?
And we head back and we go back to the Broome Bird Observatory lab where we sort through the samples.
See what's in there?
Yep.
Righto, I'm going to follow you. I'll go
worries.
as deep as you go.
With every scoop, we're hoping to find a thriving population of invertebrates. From this, it can be determined whether there is enough food for the migratory birds when they arrive from the north. If the numbers ever get critically low, it's hoped that practices can be worked out that will boost the population.
One mud sample. There you go, mate. Oh, there's a few little things in there.
Stuff, Tim. We'll have to get you out here more often, I think.
Hey, anytime.
Break it
Get
up.
rid of most of that mud, hey? Try and keep the organic stuff.
Righto. This is definitely harder work than I thought it would be. Wading through this quicksand-like mud in the harsh broom heat is not a task for the faint-hearted.
What do you got in there, Luke? Pippies, I know that one.
A few pippies. You got a few dog whelks here as well.
Dog
The
whelks?
little snails.
Yep.
Yeah. Saw a few little wormy things earlier on.
Okay. I don't want to sound ungrateful, because I'm very happy to be here, especially with waders and their food. But this is dirty, hard work.
Oh, it is, but a lot of fun.
A lot of fun.
Yeah.
A lot of fun. No one's thrown mud at me yet. I've managed to do a pretty good job myself.
Oh, yeah.
With enough samples gathered, we're ready to bag the goodies and head in. Back at the observatory, and after one more thorough clean, it's time to see what we've got.
Mud holds together. What are we mainly seeing in here?
So out of these samples, we're looking for the dog whelks.
Yep, plenty of them.
Yeah, these big, the pippies, the big ones, and there's a couple of small ones in here as well.
Yep.
I'm pretty sure I saw.
This here?
Yep. Yeah, those wormy things.
And this is good bird tucker.
Oh yeah, birds love it.
Looking out over that mud flat, we sampled quite a bit of mud, but in a very small area, and you've got kilometres and kilometres of it. So that's lots of bird food for a healthy population.
Yeah, during our big spring tides, over 190 square kilometres of mudflats exposed.
Full of that.
And that's just a small sample of what's out there.
It's no wonder it's one of the world's greatest shorebird spots.
Yeah.
Definitely.
All of the live samples will now be bottled and sent for processing. Now we know what the bay has to offer on its gourmet menu. Who are the dinner guests? For me, this is definitely one of the most amazing sights in nature. It's the high tide roost. Literally thousands of waders have congregated up here on the northern beaches of the bay.
Just down there is a group of 2,000 to 3,000 migratory waders. There's godwits, dowitches, knots, sandpipers and sandplovers. As the water comes up, they preen, digest their food and rest. And when the tide goes back out, they'll go with it and begin to feed and gorge themselves all over again.
They come together in their thousands because there's safety in numbers. Predators up in the sky will easily pick off a lone bird. Each of the 300,000 waders that visit here are feeding and fattening up in readiness to continue one of wildlife's great migrations.
This is just one stage in an amazing journey these birds make every year. 35 species start their migration south in China, Siberia and Alaska, many of which fly 12,500 kilometres and end up here at Roebuck Bay.
There's one there. He's a godwit. A few short weeks ago, he would have been devouring insects that bloom in their billions in the brief Arctic summer. Like all of these birds, they'd have built up a fat reserve, almost doubling in weight. That provides the fuel needed to migrate the massive distance to the southern hemisphere.
Some fly 10,000 kilometres non-stop. Can you imagine that? Others choose to stop off along the way, and therein lies a problem.
Migratory birds use what are known as flyways. There are 8 of them around the world. The birds here in Roebuck Bay have arrived via the East Asian Australasian flyway, and that stretches all the way from the Arctic down to Tasmania. For the ones that have to stop off and refuel en route here, it becomes a treacherous endeavour, and it's getting worse.
6,000 kilometres north of here lies the Yellow Sea. That separates China and South Korea, 2 of the fastest growing economies on Earth.
Unfortunately, history tells us growing economies aren't good for wildlife. And in the case of the Yellow Sea, where well over 600 million people live in the river catchments that drain into it, industry, agriculture and urban development have devoured vast expanses of mudflat where migrators once fed.
Around 50% of all intertidal areas have been destroyed, and many believe that to be the single greatest threat to migratory shorebirds that would otherwise arrive here at Roebuck Bay.
Back in 2006, a 33-kilometre seawall was completed on the west coast of South Korea that completely obliterated 400 square kilometres of tidal mudflat.
The Yellow Sea was a staging site for at least 1/3 of the world's population of great knots, quite a few of which are right there. But since the seawall's construction, at least 20% of them have disappeared, killed by man's ongoing destruction of wildlife habitat.
And the scary thing is the land grabbing in the Yellow Sea continues to this day.
It's all very concerning, but as I've found today, there's still plenty of birds to see.
It's hard to imagine some of these birds travel 25,000 kilometres each year. That's the equivalent distance from Earth to the Moon over a lifetime. But it's the start of life's journey that's the hardest. The Siberian spring kicks into gear with a flourish of life.
It may only last a few short weeks, but when the insects come out, it's a feeding frenzy for the chicks who need to fatten up in readiness for the great flight south.
Because the parents have a tight schedule to keep, it doesn't matter whether you're the smallest or the largest. Once you're able to fly, you're going to be left to your own devices. If they don't get back to their non-breeding areas like here in Roebuck Bay to molt and feed, they won't be able to make the journey back north to breed next season.
As for the chicks, they start their journey a little later than the adults before the breeding grounds freeze over.
These birds' lives are run like clockwork. They have to be in order to survive.
The view here may look pristine, and although the wildlife isn't an immediate threat, there are concerns about the health of the bay.
Runoff and polluted groundwater coming from Broome itself enters the bay directly through stormwater drains.
And that wastewater entering the bay causes an algal bloom, a blue-green algae that forms thick mats or clumps made up of fine hair-like strands.
The trouble with this stuff is it wrecks everything in the bay the wildlife relies on to eat. Everything from the invertebrates in the mud to the seagrass that feeds the local populations of dugongs and turtles.
It's not as obvious as a 33-kilometre seawall that obliterated feeding grounds that have served as staging posts for migratory birds for thousands of years.
But these blooms do give us a good idea of what mankind does to make life in the bay and oceans beyond problematic.
Reduce them, and it's simple. You help the biodiversity of wherever you are.
Surprisingly, the bay itself is not protected. There's no national park status as yet. There isn't even anything in law to stop development along these shores.
Increased human activities will have a detrimental effect. Shorebirds are impacted by our disturbances. Recreational activities, agriculture and industrial growth are amongst the most worrying.
The bay isn't only home to thousands of shorebirds. Now that the tide has come in, the biodiversity has exploded as marine life returns from the sea. And it's in the bay that I'm hoping to catch a sighting of one of Australia's most recent discoveries.
There's an aquatic mammal out there that was only recognised as a species in its own right 10 years ago. New mammal discoveries are extremely rare, so it got the zoological world very excited.
Which is why in the past decade, research into this new marine animal has gone through the roof. To see the work being done, I've been invited along on one of the latest expeditions.
WWF actually thought, well, we need to know more about this species because basically nothing's known about it.
Alexander is from the World Wildlife Fund. They're collaborating with other organisations and leading research into the Roebuck Bay population of snubfin dolphins, or snubbies as they're commonly known.
We came out here, we started helping researchers from the ANU and then Murdoch University, and now with Yaru. I've gone and actually looked at all the different types of dolphins in the bay, the individuals, and through taking photos of the particular fins, we can identify individuals, and then after that we've determined there's about 130, 140 in the bay, which is great.
And what makes Roebuck Bay so attractive to the snubbies?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Roebuck Bay is an incredible place. It's got 300,000 shorebirds come and actually visit the place because of all the food and the mud. And so we believe that the reason why there's such a large population of snubbies here is because it's really productive. There's lots of food, not only for birds, but also for dolphins. And so this population occurs pretty much in this bay, probably filters further south into 80 Mile Beach. And yeah, this is their home.
Now that I know a little more about their situation in the bay, I can't wait to spot one. As Alexander says, there's around 140 snubbies out there, but it's a big old place, so I reckon we've got our work cut out to grab a sighting. But the boys tell me conditions are perfect for the dolphins, so fingers crossed.
Hey. There's at least two out there. Is there? There's a couple over here. There we go. They're just loafing out here.
There's some out there?
Yeah, there's two out here.
Our first sighting. Wow! Snubbies are scattered along Australia's northern shores, often playing in small groups, just like this lot. Even though they were only discovered a decade ago, it's not like they've just moved in. Up until then, sightings were thought to be of the Irrawaddy dolphin that's common in Southeast Asia.
Some scientists in Queensland went out there and realised actually they have different colours. They've got 3 shades of grey on them effectively, and they went and took some genetic tests, and sure enough, they're an endemic Australian dolphin.
Even from here, you can see how they differ from other dolphins. Their dorsal fin, which is much smaller, is where they get their name from, and it sits further along the back than other dolphins. It also doesn't have much of a snout compared to the common bottlenose.
The snubbies we're seeing are just loafing on top of the water, and the boys say they've been out feeding, and when they come in now, they loaf around. We don't go too close with the boat, but as soon as they see us, they tend to head off slowly or dive.
Jahani is one of the Yaru Rangers who are committed to the protection of snubbies in the bay.
What are the biggest threats to them in here?
In here, well, you got the other things like sharks and stuff like that, but you got the dinghies and that with their props.
Yeah.
Some people just aren't careful and they don't realise what's in front of them and they end up hitting them, you know. But
that's a big problem.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, but I mean, we don't get many reports, but I guess no one's really going to report it. And
They might even know.
Yeah, and they don't even know that they've done it, you know.
So they can deal with sharks and crocodiles, but a boat propeller?
But a boat propeller is a bit different, so it's just a matter of people being careful, you know.
And to you, why is it important to protect the bay or protect snubfin?
I guess because they're quite rare. The snubfin dolphins are quite rare, so we got a passion for looking after everything anyways, you know. That's just who we are. But yeah, I guess because they're rare, we want to make sure that they're looked after. Yeah.
And you can understand them more and learn about them.
Yes, it's nice out here. We just want to keep it that way.
When the snubbies are feeding and playing, they're oblivious to the dangers around them, which is why, as the bay becomes more and more popular with leisure boats, strikes are on the increase. Injuries from these encounters are evident on some of the dolphins around us today. There's a greater threat to the snubbies out there, more so than sharks or even someone's propeller.
Probably the biggest threat to coastal dolphins is commercial fishing, gill net fishing. One of the great things that's happened in this bay was last year they actually banned commercial fishing, and so that should effectively protect this dolphin.
There are plans to make the bay a marine park. Still some time off, mind you, but once that happens, the whole ecosystem will benefit. This place is on the National Heritage Register and was even recognised back in 1971 as an internationally important wetland. In my opinion, It's imperative the marine park status is approved as soon as possible. Not just for the dolphins, but all the animals that call the bay home.
So it seems like there's a lot of good science happening here.
Yeah.
And a lot of good management from locals.
Yeah.
And that means the dolphins will be around for a long time to come.
Absolutely. And so the great thing is that the Yaru country managers are actually out here every month doing their surveys, and so they're having a good look at where these dolphins are, how their population is going. And one of the interesting things about this dolphin is it's in such relatively small numbers, 140 animals. We'll actually start seeing them decline if they do, and that'll give us an indication that something's going wrong in the bay.
The signs are looking good for one of the world's most recent discoveries. It's encouraging that there are so many dedicated people looking after this unique mammal.
See you later, fellas. Thanks for the day. Good on you. It's a great program that'll undoubtedly benefit the wildlife that call Roebuck Bay home.